When we find that secure space for ourselves, I call it living secure mode, it actually has an amazing effect on our longevity. Each insecure person causes us to age by 9 months on a cellular level. And it's incremental. So the more insecure people like that you have in your life, but actually a way to actually slow down aging is to really create that secure mode. So we can start with dating because that's where you're going to decide about who is that person who's going to be in your life.
We have an incredible guest in Amir Levine here, psychiatrist, neuroscientist, author of Attached and the new book, Secure. What inspired you to write that book?
First, I came across this whole attachment styles by chance. Like, I've never learned about it in my clinical work as a psychiatrist. It just happened by chance. I was going through a breakup, and there I read like these 2 huge textbooks about adult attachment. And there, like in the academic lingo, was like this gold mine about these attachment styles that all of a sudden, it's like a light bulb went in my head.
Hi guys, welcome back to Why Do I? We're going to explore something that affects millions of people. Something called the avoidant anxious attachment dynamic. And we're going to look to understand how we can all be more secure in our relationships. And we're going to try and do this in a way that you've probably never heard before. We have an incredible guest in Amir Levine here, psychiatrist, neuroscientist, author of Attached and the new book, Secure. But we're not just going to interview him about attachment theory. We're bringing him into our lives. We're going to ask him to help us understand why we do the things we do. Now, long-term viewers of the podcast will know that I always talk about my own avoidance. It crops up a lot. I've had to spend a huge amount of time working through that. But what I wanted to do today was give you guys 2 perspectives. So we have the slightly anxiously attached Liv.
That's how I'm branded as the anxious one.
Who's a really good pal of mine and is going to give us a different perspective. We're going to try and decode the cycles that so many of us seem to be stuck in our relationships. So guys, welcome. And Amir, it's so good to have you sat today. Why are you sat here with us?
I'm here to help you figure out how to work out. I think we even called it the anxious avoidant trap. Yeah. It's really something that people fall into because we have these different attachment styles, the anxious, avoidant, and secure. And it's like a script that we have in our head, but they're not the same scripts. They're actually sometimes diametrically opposed scripts. So how do you learn to live with those different attitudes and ways of seeing the world in a way that can bring you together rather than set you apart? And that's my main goal today.
Fantastic. Thank you. We were just talking before we started shooting about your work, and particularly the first book, Attached, right, which has become a part of everyone's vernacular, particularly on social media.
It's literally the Bible for relationships, I feel. It's like my go-to that I recommend everyone if they're having any relationship struggles.
Right.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write that book? Like, what took you to it?
So Attached, I came across this whole attachment styles by chance. Like, I've never learned about it in my clinical work as a psychiatrist. It just happened by chance. I was going through a breakup, and in my work, in my residency as a child psychiatrist, I was working in children. It's more understood, and doing some like attachment in kids. So we were doing some attachment therapy with actually mothers that were trauma survivors and their kids. And I loved the work so much that I did something you never do. They give you this recommended reading list that no one has time to read. You're a resident, you're on call. I read the whole reading list from beginning to end. Yeah. And there I read like these 2 huge textbooks about adult attachment. And there, like in the academic lingo, was like this gold mine about these attachment styles that all of a sudden, like really, it's like a light bulb went in my head. It's like, wow, because I was going through a breakup, and it's like all of a sudden it really laid it out there for me. Why things didn't work out between us?
Wow.
And I really had this understanding. Wow, that's incredible. Now I understand better. I have to say, a caveat. Did it make the pain go away? It was a very, very painful breakup. Yeah. It didn't make the pain exactly go away. It made me understand things better. It really helped in some ways, but it didn't make the pain go away because I didn't really realize, it didn't give me the way to become more secure. So that's where this next book comes in, kind of takes it to the next level.
Wow.
Like, what can we do to live with those attachment styles? Like, you're avoidant, you're anxious. Okay, this is the animal that we are.
Yeah.
Now, how do we live with this animal?
Interesting. Yeah, because I think that's the thing. I think it was so useful for me to read the book when I was feeling extremely anxiously attached. And like I was saying, there's something in just being able to rationalize it a bit more and be like, okay, I feel this way. because of this. And it wasn't so much making me secure, but just having that level of understanding of why I behaved this way. It kind of made it easier to process and made me feel more
Right,
seen.
because oftentimes what we do, especially people who have an anxious attachment style, like I've coined this new term in Secure in the new book, and I call it attachment gaslighting. And there's like the internal gaslighting that we do to ourselves, and the gaslighting that others do to us.
Yeah.
And basically what they say, and because I think at the very basis of it, having an anxious attachment style, and now as I was researching to write this new book, the data is just unbelievable because it just shows you that it's in a way, it's a superpower. You can see things and sense things in the environment that others can't.
Yeah.
But it also comes at a price because then you do see things that other people can't see, and it can be it can
like
be
energy
bothersome.
shifts, and you're like,
You're
what's
you
happening?
see things
Yeah.
exactly. So how do you live with that? And oftentimes people say, "Oh, I shouldn't let this get to me. I'm too sensitive."
Yeah.
But then you're trying to fight your biology. And in this new book, I'm really trying to teach you how to lean into your biology and sort of find how it can be a superpower and diffuse the other side that makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
All right, shall we give our viewers a bit of an insight, Liv, into where
I'm waiting.
where these
I want to hear it.
attachment styles might come from? I know that we could both do hours on this, so
Yeah,
let's try.
like, we're gonna need a timer on this.
Exactly.
Like, right, 1 minute, let's go.
Whistle stop tour from each of us. So, I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself to understand why I'm so avoidant, right? And it's really important to do that work. And what I found out was that it was all around attachment as a kid. It was about role models, about my dad in particular not being able to step up and be a present father. And that had a huge impact on me as a kid. It made me feel so rejected, so abandoned. And so how I'd show up as an adult in relationships would be I'd always kind of hold myself back a little bit. I'd always save a bit of myself for me because I was so worried that I'd get treated by my romantic partners the same way that my dad treated me. And so independence for me was incredibly important. I thought that represented freedom. And for so much of my life, like I thought what makes a good life is about travel, about seeing the world, all of those kind of things. I didn't even put relationships into the mixer at all.
Classic.
Is it?
What
I
you're
know.
describing is like the textbook avoidant. Yes, classic.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the thing. But, and you know, touch wood, my beautiful partner's here and we have a very secure relationship, but it's because I've had to do a lot of work and really reprioritize what I think is important in life. So that's kind of my story. And then Liv.
Okay, mine's, I guess, opposite end of the spectrum as an anxiously attached person. So when I was younger, I was diagnosed with leukemia. So I spent a lot of time in hospitals, a lot of time out of school, away from my friends. And I think my friends, then I came back to school, they all had new friends. I was like out of the picture. And so I think I constantly had this idea that I'm replaceable. Like they're going to go find better. Like that's a conscious, like a recurring thought that I would have when it came to relationships and an underlying fear. But my family is actually very close-knit, like very, very close. And I think perhaps I expect that level of closeness from a relationship. And my parents have an incredible relationship. They're securely married. But I think because of that, relationships are so important to me, like quite the opposite. Like, you know, I want what my parents have, and I'm sometimes like, is my bar too high? Especially in this day and age, it seems like near impossible to have just a healthy relationship like they have. But I definitely think having had that experience when I was in hospital then contributed. After reading the book, I did reflecting. But in relationships, the funny thing is I have been secure and I've been incredibly anxious. And that was one big thing that I think I realized is the person that you're with, can that push you one way or the other?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So that's part of what this new book actually, there's been advancements also in the science, and really everything that you described is just so important. And I'll try to break it down a bit by bit because like it's just so rich, everything that you said, because the way that it works is that we can have more than one attachment style and we can have different attachment styles with different people. And in fact, I have the quiz in the book, and also I have a quiz online on my website actually there's a whole drop-down menu where you can do with my sibling, with my parents,
Oh,
with my friend, with my coworker.
Yeah.
You can actually do like you can do like each
Yeah.
other and see what your attachment style is with each other. Even there's we have attachment styles with our pet. So there's that. I put it because I have a dog. So
Yeah.
so you can really, and then at the end result you get a map. I call it your attachment topography rather than attachment style.
Yeah.
And you can see how your whole social environment is built up, and who are the secure people in your life, and who actually sort of like bring out the more anxious, the more avoidant in you. And actually we use that because really it describes a whole new type of therapy, which I call secure priming therapy or secure therapy. That's the beginning step of how to start changing towards being more secure, is to sort of get a visualization of your attachment styles. Yeah. So that's the beginning. But what you said about your dad, and then also about how you shifted towards more secure, like to become more secure in your romantic relationship, and what you said about friendships early on, those are very, very important details that I'll come back to a little bit later. You'll see, because it's like some of the science is just like will blow your like it's mind blowing about that.
Amazing. I'm really interested in how this shows up in dating. Like that's the first thing that I think people come to, and I've read the new book, and I understand that this sort of secure attachment style can benefit in so many different parts of your life. But I thought maybe we could start with that.
Yeah.
Because
we can start with dating because that's at ground zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it all happens.
That's where it all starts.
No. You know what? Actually, I discovered you think that dating and romantic relationships are that important.
Yeah.
But you know how many people like when they have difficult friendships, how much it like really upsets people.
Right.
Like difficult like in-laws relationships. All of that affects us. And in fact, there's one study that showed that when we have these insecure attachment styles, when we find that secure space for ourselves, I call it living secure mode, it actually has an amazing effect on our longevity.
Wow.
And each insecure person actually causes us to age by 9 months on a cellular level, and it's incremental. So the more insecure people like that you have in your life,
wow,
the more like they age. Like we put all these creams, I don't know, spend hundreds of dollars on creams and on but actually a way to actually slow down aging is to really create that secure mode. So we can start with dating because that's where you're going to decide about who is that person who's going to be in your life.
Yeah.
And I suppose, I mean, my first question is, I feel like avoidants get a really bad rep. And we did speak about this before.
They do. If someone's like brand
especially on social media, they're so misunderstood.
Yes. But just could you articulate a little bit for our viewers what avoidants are normally characterized by?
So first of all, the way that you describe avoidance, it's just like great because it's like really thinking, not putting relationships as a priority. Like you said, I'm thinking about travel. It's like thinking about being self-sufficient, taking care of my own problems, and just like really being out there in the world, taking care of things on my own.
Exactly.
It's like that's kind of like their modus operandi, right?
And also having an expectation that your partner is able to do those things too, right?
So,
this is a big one for me. Was I would never be like, if my partner asked me for something, I'd be like, why can't you just do that yourself? Like, it's not hard. It's just making a cup of coffee.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Okay.
Like literally, there are 3 things like that in this book, I feel like I make amends to the avoidance in this world, because in that other book, like, and you can go on Reddit and you'll see people like avoidance sometimes really rant on about how they actually made them feel bad because it made me like, so like, you're just saying that I'm not good. They're saying that I'm not going to be able to be close. Like, what is the point of all this? But in this book, I make amends to the avoidance in this world, because since then I've worked a lot with the people who are avoidant, and I learned their suffering and their plight of wanting that closeness, but then feeling the difficulty of getting there. But oftentimes it's simpler than people think. And what you just said is just so perfect, because it's the first pitfall. I described 3 pitfalls. And the first one is called heal thyself. And what I mean is, by healing thyself is oftentimes, it's exactly the way that you said it. Avoidants are used to taking care of their own problems. If there's an issue, they deal with it. If something happens, they solve it. But they're around 25% of the population. The rest of us, when we have a problem or an issue, oftentimes, like if something hurts or something happened to us, we seek guidance from others.
Yeah.
We reach out to others so they can help us, they can soothe us, give us some advice, help us calm down. We're very social species, so we tend to do that. And that's most people. We even have an attachment hierarchy in our head.
Right.
Something, even for you, if something really, really bad happened to you, you would reach out to something, but it would have to be like, you would really have to be bad.
Yeah.
So, and you know exactly who you're going to reach out to. We have an attachment hierarchy in our head. But avoidants, they mostly do it on their own. So when you come to them with your problem, they're like, what do you want from me? Like, just the way that you said it, like, deal with it yourself.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to them, what do? So that's where you have to understand attachment logic. Unbeknownst to them, what they do is they really are like turning all the fire against them. Because if I go to you and have a problem and you're like pushing me away, I forget about the problem that I had. All of a sudden, you now become the problem. Because you're like, you've cut off that connection and you're not helping me. And then you magnify it 100 times. I even like don't even care so much about the problem. I start arguing with you and yelling at you. And it's just like, and all you needed to do is understand that you're the minority. You're like the minority report. You're like the odd one out. And the rest, 75% of the population, need a little bit reassurance. But the funny thing is with attachment, it's not a very, like, it doesn't need a lot. It just needs a little bit, like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Here, come, let me give you a hug. That's terrible what happened to you. And so that's kind of like the way. And if you give that little bit, then you get the space that you want. Because actually what you're doing is the opposite of what you need. You turn all the attention on you by pushing them away. So that's the heal myself thing that avoidants fall into.
This resonates with me so much.
Yes.
I would almost see it as a burden that I would need to say something to a partner like, hey, I really understand that you're feeling difficult. It must be tough for you, like, and do something for them. And it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was because I wouldn't need it myself. So I saw it as a weakness, you know? But it has really changed over the years. So
yeah, I would say I think I'm avoidant in friendships.
You could be. That's what I'm saying. If you fill out that questionnaire, you might be. It's like, yeah, you deal with it yourself, honey. I don't want to sort of push it all on me.
When I was going through my breakup, like I was like, get on with it myself. People would ask me about it. I'll get on with it. But then when my friends would come to me about a guy, I didn't respond to them and they were upset. I was like, I didn't even come to you when I was going through like a breakup. What do I do in this instance? And I'd almost get like agitated because I was like, it feels unequal, but I know that's on me because I could have used them and they would have been great. But I didn't go to them for that. I like bottled it up. But then in relationships, very different.
Really?
Yeah.
That's where it gets very nuanced. And that's what I was trying to really show in this new book, that it's much more nuanced than people think. But the same logic runs through all of these different relationships. So even with your friends, like as long as you say, I'm so like I understand. And then there's different ways to actually deal with it that makes it like easier. So you find ways to show up for them. So for example, for avoidance, oftentimes it's harder to have like this face-to-face conversation. It just feels too close. So sometimes going on a walk or exercising together, or why are you laughing?
I'm finding that funny, Amir, because
tell me.
I run a men's community. It's what I spend most of my time doing now. It's a community of 1,200 men. And we called it shoulder to shoulder for that exact reason, because my hypothesis, you're the expert, is that men skew to avoidance more than women do. The reason why we called it shoulder to shoulder is because eye-to-eye contact with men, we find it really tough. We find it really intimidating. And so when we walk together, we either play golf, we do a walk, it's so much easier to open up that way. But
yeah, because it is.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think it's just like the way, and I have to say, there's also plenty of avoidant women.
But do men skew avoidant more than women do?
And there's a lot of like, there's the majority of both men and women are secure, thank God. For all of us, because they help us become more secure. No, but and also, like, I'm sure that you're also secure with some people in your life, and I'm sure that you are too. I don't know. You can find. I'm very secure with my pet, with Charlie, for example. It's just hard not to. And that's actually a very good example, because we tend to be very forgiving and really give like leeway to our pets. Like whatever he does, he's like an angel.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's so cute.
It's like, oh, he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. So he doesn't mean it. So like you have this idea that they're good inside, right? So it's the same. That's kind of like a secure approach. I think most men, like, there are also a lot of anxious men, and yes, and there's also like avoidant women, but in our culture we tend to equate avoidance with masculinity and anxiousness with like more, and that's actually where it trips a lot of women, I have to say, because a lot of women, when they meet a secure man, there's like, I don't know about this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they don't see that, because they tend to be more expressive, they're less sort of reserved,
Yeah.
they give more freely of themselves, and it's like, because we equate, and it's not their fault, women's fault, it's because they don't equate it with enough masculinity.
Sure.
They're like, I don't know about this guy. Meanwhile, this is like such a catch for you,
Yeah.
because like they can really help you. Like you can build the relationship that you described between your mom and your dad.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
And so to bring it back to the dating, sorry, I feel like all I'm doing is talking about my own avoidance and how it applies to dating.
It's eye-opening
Very
as well
fascinating,
to me,
because avoidants don't get a voice. Anxious, I feel like, get all the like they get like people feel bad for them on TikTok.
Yeah.
People, and then avoidants
What a bunch
are
of
just like
wimps, honestly.
villainized.
Get a grip yourselves.
Yeah, we're here like exposing all our problems online, whereas avoidants are like,
we're like,
not
oh,
posting
Yeah, and
about
avoidants are
relationships or
villainized,
anything.
and they have no like who's gonna help who's gonna hear the avoidant plight.
Exactly. But my question around the dating thing was, live this ghosting, love bombing, all of these things which people talk about so much around modern dating at the moment.
Yeah.
For me, they are all forms of avoidance. They're all about, if it's ghosting or even love bombing, it's about feeling some sort of connection and then either not having the balls to say it's not for me, or it being too intense. So something like love bombing, and you've created this environment where you then have to deliver on that expectation you've created for your partner, and so you'd rather just walk away. Like that's what I think love bombing is. But
well, I was about to say love bombing gets an anxious attachment girl going.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me.
Because you're then like, oh my God, they're obsessed with me, and it is the worst thing in the world for an anxious attachment, because you experience that closeness. And I think for me, my anxious attachment doesn't come up so much on surface level dating. It's when I open myself up to a person and become more vulnerable, and I feel like love bombing would give that window where I feel safe enough to do that. And then suddenly it's like they're off, they're gone because they freak out or panic or Yeah.
So I think the way that I think about it is really more from a point. So everything that you mentioned is also really I'm amazed by it, because it's like you're taking the words right out of my mouth, because that's the second pitfall that avoidants often fall into is, I call it in the book, not respecting the attachment homeostasis, which is like, I wish I had called it now in a different name because it sounds like such a scientific name. No, but I know it's basically the attachment baseline. But I know why I called it homeostasis, because we are physical beings, and as a biological being, there's always this need for biological systems to reach a baseline. There's always this draw. We want stability. It's about stability. So what happens is, I'll give you an example. Like an anxious and avoidant go on, they start dating, and then they go on a weekend getaway together. They spend an amazing time together. They go to restaurants. He buys her gifts, all of these amazing stuff that happens. Then Monday comes along. So usually he will text her on Monday. And because being the avoidant, like there's so much closeness, he forgets to text her on Monday. So she's like, well, I'm not getting a text on Monday. This is it. So here's the anxious script kicks in. This is it. I've opened up. We've been close. This is usually what happens. Now they're going to go, like he's starting to back away. They're changed their mind. Like all of that starts to go through their mind. He's like, so you'll like, oh, should I text? Should I not text? I don't know what to do. You send a text, but they don't even see it, so they don't reply to you. In the evening, they call you. You're already like upset. You answer the phone and you're cold on the phone. And they're like, what happened? Like, no, you haven't texted me all day. And like, what do you mean? I was just working. I didn't even think about that. No, I know what's happening. And then as the avoidant, you're like, I don't know, can I use expletives here?
Absolutely.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I just gave you so much. We spent this whole weekend together. Like I went out of my way to be there for you. and even that's not enough for you.
Yeah.
Now you want more. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work for me because like this person is so needy.
Yeah.
And then you don't really understand what you did wrong when there's like such a simple logic that you didn't pay attention. Again, it's the attachment logic, but if
Yeah.
people don't know it, they don't know how they fell into this familiar trap. So basically with attachment, the way that it works, you can't carry it over. It's not like credit that you can say, okay, we've created this closeness. Now I get the extra credits for the next week. No, the way that it's a surveillance mechanism. It's it's like our nervous system. It's a surveillance because that's how we feel safe in the world.
Yeah.
So from an attachment perspective, like the fact that it's fine that you were together all this weekend, but the fact that I didn't get a text that I usually get on Monday, that sort of triggers the alarm. And it doesn't matter how much time. So if you understand that as an avoidant, you'll know, okay, I need to, especially on Monday, then I'm coming back to text because I need to keep that baseline going because otherwise it's going to trigger them.
Yeah.
Or let's say you forgot and then they do reach out to you. Then you're like, oh, I'm so sorry I forgot to text you.
Yeah.
Because like knowing again ahead of time to sort of quiet it's like a radar. And so once you learn those tricks, you learn how to circumvent all these familiar things that happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what would a secure person be instead of avoidant after a weekend like that? Would they text straight away? Would they?
Oh, yeah. Usually they text right away.
Yeah.
Or so the thing is, if they didn't text right away, if you'll text them and if you'll be called with them and they say, oh, hey, Anne, I'm so sorry. Like you wouldn't have that like defensive response, like, what the fuck do you want from me?
Like, what's wrong?
Stay away. You're like sort of too demanding and too needy.
Yeah.
Because that's the script that you have in your head.
Yeah.
The avoidants don't have that script at all. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Let me make it up to you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But you as so, and usually they don't even forget. And it's just like, it doesn't really often come up.
Yeah.
Or they're very easy. They know how to, I have to say, I've really, in the course of writing this book, I've come to fall in love with the secures of this world because they're just so good in relationships and they have a way of diffusing conflict very in a really, really cool way.
Yeah. It's interesting because in that scenario you just outlined, I would also suggest that a secure person would also be able to go a whole day without receiving a text and it not make them feel
for sure.
sad.
For sure. I'm totally there with you. They probably wouldn't even notice that you didn't text them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't notice it.
Interesting.
So, which tells me that avoidants are better than anxious. Just FYI.
I'm there like, where's the text? Like, what's happening?
Of course.
40 minutes.
That's so interesting. That's secure. Okay, maybe I'm less secure than I
Yeah.
Think about it. But the thing is, so here's when it comes to really understanding our biology and not trying to fight with our biology, but learning to live with our biology. Because I had a patient, I only saw him once, this super wealthy person who made a ton of money in finance, in trading.
Yeah.
And he came after a woman that he was dating ghosted him. And he was just so heartbroken and so upset. And look, we had one session and like I said, everything was going on. And I tried to explain to him, like, no, this is like, look, you can't really, like, this is a certain biology that you have to learn to live. And that I can show you different ways and different, like all these different tools of how to make it work for you. And he said, no, I just want you to extract it out of my head. I don't want that anxious attachment anymore.
Yeah.
But then I told him, but look, the fact that you have all this wealth, it's because of that sort of more anxious attachment, because it's being able to see things and have this sensitivity to the environment that other people don't have. So you being able to see certain trends in the market and bet on that before anybody else could see, like really served you in an amazing way. So if you were to get rid of that, you would get rid of that as well. You wouldn't be able to see and sense things in a way that other people can't.
Fascinating.
So that's why it's like you have that biology. Now, what do you do about it?
Yeah, I'm working with it. Yeah.
Should we talk a little bit about where this stuff comes from? Because that's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in this, and I'm interested in how it shows up in different ways of friendship and relationships.
Yeah, like my gut feel would be that it comes from childhood, right? But maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're asking me that. But that's one of the biggest things that I was also surprised about. just like really looking. That's why I love science so much, and that's why I became a scientist, because it really like it shows you things in the way that you least expected them. So it's not that, it's much more nuanced than we used to think. And they did some. There's several studies. These studies are very hard to do, but there are several studies where they followed people for like 30 years, and they saw what they were like, what happened to them as children, and then now as an adults, and their adult attachment styles. And they find that actually the contribution, and that's why also I'm so glad that you mentioned the friendships.
Yeah.
Like one particular study that came out in 2026 found that the maternal contribution, they didn't find it, but like the maternal contribution for the adult attachment style was about 30. It was about 3%, 3%, and actually friendships, childhood friendships, was 11%.
Wow.
But both are not big, right? 11% and 3%. That's not much. Like there's another 90% that other things that contribute our adult attachment style. Both are not not that meaningful. They have an effect, but it's not that big. So yeah, I know, right?
Where's the 86% gone, Amir?
Where's it coming from?
So I think I actually see that, I've come to see it as a very, very promising, because it means that as an uber social species, we're very malleable and we can shift. Like you actually said how much you've shifted.
Massively.
Which is really, that's really good news.
Yeah.
Like because this is our biggest asset as a species, our ability to collaborate. We're not particularly strong animals, but yet we can survive in the North Pole. We made it to the moon. We're not in the middle of the food chain anymore. We're in the top of the food chain only because we can collaborate so well together. Otherwise, we'd still be sitting here and like, oh my, is a tiger coming to eat us? Like we won't be hiding in the bush. We won't be sitting here talking to each other.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense that everything will be fixated like so early on, because we need that agility in order to have risen to where we have our social brain needs to be super agile. And that's the newest findings really show how like our brain constantly surveys our environment and changes its prediction. It's tricky because it usually will discount information and like stick to what it knows. But if you present it with enough information to the contrary, then it will change the script. Like your script has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I can hear it.
Yeah.
And your script,
I would say actually has changed by sticking it out, wanting to cover, obviously being with different people with different attachment styles.
Right.
But when I was with someone that was avoidant, it actually forced me to work through it. And even though I was still anxious, I became a lot less anxious as the relationship went on. And he definitely became more secure. But we were still anxious and avoidant, but it was like we kind of came a bit more closer to the middle. And I now feel more secure in dating as a result. Because I guess I've learned how to cope a bit with the attachment style that I have.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there are
almost like what we were talking about, where it's almost like rejection therapy, like where you get used to experiencing that so much that you realize maybe it's not a threat, maybe it's just something I have to live with. You know. But...
Although now we're talking about like no texting and forgetting to end all of this stuff, I'm like, I don't think I'd settle for that again. I think it was because we're in a relationship
Good for you.
for so long.
And I'll tell you why. So the way here's how I see it now. What I've learned and what this whole secure priming therapy is about, and I even start the book with a story about myself, is that we all, and that's some of even psychoanalytic theory says that we all have secure representations inside us, but I call it like secure kernels, different experiences that we've had that actually left a secure mark within us. And part of the work that we do in this new type of therapy is actually not only focus on the difficult, I mean, of course, we talk about that too, not only focus on the difficult things, but also bring up, mention some of the amazing experiences that people have had, those secure experiences that left a mark on us. So part of what I really encourage people to do when you go dating is to really cut to the chase very early on and do a secure intervention. And I have a specific tool I call it a CARP intervention, and I can explain in a minute. And so you really want to figure out, you want to see if you can summon the secure part from the other person, and you give them instructions. You give them, here's the way to do it.
Yeah, you're setting your expectations for that relationship, right?
You're kind of setting the ground rules for
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
your brain needs to feel safe in the world.
Wow.
I
But not just in dating, even
Yeah.
more important, but in every area of your life.
Because I think that's the thing. The thing with dating is you can get so far in and then you find out that they're avoidant, but then you're
Biggest
attached.
mistake you
Yeah.
can do.
You
But
almost
then
can't open any
you're
doors.
screwed because you're like already like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You already, especially as an anxious person, you're already
Yeah.
attached. You're like, I'm in and I'm going to make it work. That's
Yeah.
how my brain works at
And
least.
people with an anxious attachment style have I call it like a sticky attachment.
Mm.
It's more like avoidance. Like it's more like you don't have an off switch and like an off switch for the relationship.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't happen. You do avoidance can turn it off and
Yes.
sort of move on the next
Yeah.
day, which is like can be an asset. But for anxious, even with friendships, it's very, very hard to turn that.
Yeah.
There's no off switch.
Yeah.
So the way to set the ground rules, you have to learn about what I've come to call the 5 pillars of a secure life,
Okay.
which is you want to be yourself to be that, and then also to teach and expect others to be that way with you. You have to be consistent, available, and responsive, and then reliable and predictable. And so that's CARP. I know it's a mouthful, but it's really consistent, available, and responsive. And you have to be that way yourself, and you have to teach others to be that way with you. So when you're dating, I would even put it on my profile. For me, it's very important that people are consistent, available, and reliable in all of my life.
Yeah.
Not just in dating. I do this. This is the way I show up for the people in my life,
Yeah.
and that's what I want people. That's how I want people to show up for me. And then if they can do it, that's good. But if
Yeah.
they can't, then you have to move on, especially if you're anxious.
Yeah.
This was the bit I found a bit challenging about the book, Amir, it was pretty kind of cutthroat, you know, when we talk about people in your life who don't give you those things. And I get it in a dating context where that person doesn't mean anything to you, but I have friends that I've known for a long time, and I know that they don't show up for me like that. And I'm like, God, there's this loyalty that I have towards them, even though I know they don't see me the way that I want them to see me. I don't think they make me feel secure, you know. So you're kind of contrasting two things, because I'm loyal towards them, but I also know that maybe longer term they're not the right people for me.
I'm happy that you're challenging me, because I've thought about it, and that's sort of the second part is that I came up with a tool to deal exactly with what you described, and I call it wall tennis with love. This is the second tool. I have a tool for everything, but it's just not for everything. But I really put a lot of thought into it, and it really comes out of like a decade of working in this framework. So wall tennis have you ever played tennis against the wall?
Yeah, sure.
So basically,
Yeah.
oh, badminton, whatever. It's like,
Oh, there is another person there. There isn't that.
so in wall tennis with love, you are the wall.
Yeah.
And so whatever is being served to you, you return with similar velocity, the same way when it's dished to you, but you're the wall. You don't initiate. So,
No.
but with love. So I have a friend who I'm doing wall tennis with love with, because we've been friends for 20 years. And at times it was a difficult relationship. And even there was, I think, a year and a half that we didn't talk to each other, which was actually very painful. And now it's wall tennis with love. And so you can see, I can show you my text. I text him hi. I don't text him. I'm the wall. I can't text him. He texts me hi. I text him back right away, hi. A week goes by. He texts me another hi. I text him hi. 2 days go by. Then he calls me all of a sudden. I answer because I want to talk to him. And so we talk, and it's really nice. And then when I feel that he wants to get off the phone, we get off the phone. I don't extend the conversation. I really leave it on the wall,
Yeah.
but with love.
Uh-huh.
And it really made the relationship so much more manageable. I used to call him like if I needed help. But he that heal thyself, like he would always like sort of fall into that pitfall of that heal thyself. It's like, what do you want from me? But then I would get upset, and I wouldn't call him. There would be hot and cold. It would be all this drama. Now, when remember that I told you to do that quiz and see all the people in your life.
Yeah.
If I have a problem in my life or I need support, I'm not gonna turn to him.
Yeah.
I have this other list of people in my life that I'm gonna call. and I'm going to my sister. There's a whole my partner, and then but it actually preserved the relationship. It gave it the room that it should have with and detoxified it, basically.
Yeah.
And you suggest that only works on avoidance? Because if you did that with an anxious person, I have one friend who is definitely very anxiously attached when it comes to friendships. If I took that approach with her, she would freak out.
No. So you only do that when the other person is not CARP with you, when they're not consistent, available, and responsive. If she is consistent, available, and responsive, then you can't really do that, because she will feel that you're cutting her, like she will expect reciprocity. So if my friend had told me, hey, how come you're not calling me? So then like he's inviting me to call him. So I don't have, like, that's part of the wall. So I will call more.
Fine. Okay.
It's just like I really they set the tempo for the relationship.
Yeah.
And I find my need for connectedness, more effective connectedness, a more secure way to connect, found a way in other areas. Because remember how I told you that those troubled relationships, they can shorten your life in like 9 months each. And I don't want that. Like cellularly.
God,
I want to.
I feel like I'm going to pop my clogs next week, judging by that. You know,
it's fine. You're in a secure relationship now. You're fine. Make that the time.
This is fascinating. I love all this stuff. I just find it so interesting to talk about it.
So interesting.
And evaluate all of my relationships through this
and actually look back
lens.
Yeah. But
so now you can learn to show up like in a more CARP way to your friends.
And that's the issue with what I find such a weird dynamic for me is I definitely think I'm avoidant in my friends.
It sounds like it to me.
Yeah, like I am.
It's like, why do you come to me? What do you want from
what
me?
are you doing? But then in a relationship, I'm like, give me more. Like I need more reassurance.
But also you described something that when you went through a breakup, you did it on your own. You didn't ask for help. So that's also avoidant.
Yeah, that's... You
isolated yourself.
Do you think that anxious and avoidant can actually be closer than we think? Do you see it as a line or
so you can also change it to like insecure and secure.
Okay.
And they can lump them together as insecure. In fact, in the research, oftentimes they do that. But you know what actually now interested me, and I thought that maybe that's something that also happened to you with the breakups. I'm going to ask you about that, because I think oftentimes what happens, these are such difficult moments in those breakups and I describe it in the book, that we are afraid to ask for help because we've been there, we've asked for help so many times, and we describe the person so badly, and then we go back to them, that we feel that we can't really go back again and do it again, because we've burnt I describe it in the book, we've burnt our social bridges by describing them in the most horrible way when we're very, very upset.
Yeah, and it's like, once I told my mom that, there's no going back. Suddenly, everything comes out the woodworks, every slight issue that was in the relationship. You're then telling your friends this, and then you feel shame in going back. But do you think then you don't open up to people because you're kind of holding on to the relationship?
So a lot of these things may happen because it's more like, I don't want to tell people what's going on. I don't want to reveal, because then I have to be accountable. And I know that it's too painful to leave. So I should probably keep it to myself. There's all these different things that may come up with that. It can be, and then you become isolated, and then it makes the breakup even harder, and then makes you want to go back to that person more.
Well, what's interesting when it comes to me and breakups is I will leave a relationship when it is on its last legs. Like I will drag out and I will hold on and keep holding on and keep hoping, even though deep down I know I need to break up with them. I will sometimes stay for like a year. And is that an anxious?
It's not unusual. It is more anxious, but also actually secure people can stay on for a long, long time.
Whereas with me, the first sign of trouble and I'm gone. You know, the first big argument we have, and I'm like, well, she's not the person for me. Until my current relationship. I just like to
So what changed in your current relationship?
A lot of things. I mean, it was going to be the big question with all of this stuff is, we've talked about the awareness, we've talked about the traits. How do you change it? And I mean, I'd love to share a bit about my journey, because it was a lot of reading, which really, really helped me understand. It was like it was like looking in the mirror, reading your first book. And it was a lot of therapy. And it was just rethinking what my priorities were in life and starting to build closer relationships step by step, which just gave me so much. And the big revelation for me was this idea of service to others, and how when I was young, I couldn't even fathom the idea of helping someone else. I was incredibly selfish because of what happened with my dad. I felt like everyone was out there to take advantage of you. But I noticed through these little minor interactions with people that it felt really good to do things for others. And I'm the happiest I've ever been now. And that's because my life is dedicated to helping people. And it feels incredible. It feels like such a good feeling. And the work I do with men has improved my romantic relationships immeasurably. That is the thing that I would say which has helped more than anything else, is understanding the benefit of stepping up for other people. But
Wow, you're giving me goosebumps actually, because
Oh,
it's like
thanks.
so powerful what you described. Very touching,
thank you.
because just like this work and how, but that's the promise of like how we can really transform our attachment style and transform ourselves through those small interactions. I think one example that I have is like, I think it was on the Dax Shepard podcast,
Yeah.
and he actually describes how the first time that when he was like with his now current wife, they were dating, and they were sitting on the couch, and he's like, honey, can you get me a glass of water? And he was like looking, and it's like, and like in his mind, it was like, bitch, get it yourself. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a bit like that, but it's like, get it yourself. It's like, why, you trying to take advantage of me?
Mhm.
But then he had that awareness, wait a second, maybe she's not out to get me. Maybe there's an opportunity here for me here to learn something new,
Mm.
that this is how you do it. There's a give and take, and I can do things for my partner. And it doesn't mean that like I'm being taken advantage
Yeah.
of, that I'm a pushover.
Mm.
And then he got up and got the thing. It was a transformational moment for him. And I'm glad that you said that, because that really, another very important principle in this book. There's that CARP, and then just as important, and there's just only two acronyms there, is those micro interactions that we have in our daily life, which oftentimes people don't think that are very important to change. But actually, if you understand the brain from a neuroscience perspective, you know how crucial they are for us to change. And I've called them the seemingly insignificant minor interactions of everyday life, or in short, SIMIs.
Yeah.
So those SIMIs are the minor interactions that we go through every day. It's like, even now, that's why I even told you before that I don't think talking about the weather is a cliche. It's a way to connect with someone else. And our brain loves that connectedness. It really creates that. That's the biggest longevity hack, basically, that we have. It doesn't only make us feel really good, because it does. It makes us feel that life is more meaningful when we're hyper connected.
Yeah.
It gives us more self-esteem. I was surprised by reading all that research. I thought that self-esteem, or that how much life is meaningful, or that I'm more in control over my life. But these are things that I have to do with me, not with how my environment. But it has to do with how connected we are. So the way what you're describing, that like creating that connectedness world for yourself through all those scenes, and how much it made you feel better, it all agrees exactly with the science and the tools that I'm actually really trying to teach people. Okay, how do you create that secure bubble for yourself?
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting. I actually was going to ask you a question on, because when you have an anxious attachment, you get that like gut feeling, anxiety feeling sometimes. It's like a body response. And I think it's trying to differentiate when you're dating between gut instinct and your like the anxiety of the anxious attachment being set off, because they might be a nice person, lovely person, secure person, but you might still get that anxiety feeling. And it's like whether you trust that as, oh, that's just my anxious attachment playing up, or is that gut instinct of that they're not the right person for me?
So it's a great question. So what I like to say, especially for someone who has an anxious attachment, that it is a gut instinct, but what it tells you to do, it tells you to now send out a probe to test the environment and see what you're going to get. Is the other person going to able to meet you where you need them to meet you?
Yeah.
So you basically do that CARP intervention, and you do it like, I'll give you an example. There's one of my patients in my practice. She hooked up with a guy on Tinder, just like a one night stand, and they had an amazing time together. They really hit it off together.
Yeah.
So then went off on their each on their merry ways, and then a few days, I think maybe a week later, they hooked up again. And again, it was just like, but they could feel that they could feel that there's something there. But in between those two times that they hooked up, he didn't really reply a lot to her texts, and he ignored her a lot. And so before he left on the second day, they spent the night together. She told him, "Look, for me, it's very important that I'm very consistent, available, and responsive for the people in my life. And for me, it's very important that people will be consistent, available, and responsive. Because if you don't, it's just gonna be like, if I try to get in touch with you and you don't reply in some way, you don't answer, I know I can't control it. I'm gonna be hitting up your phone. And I just don't like that about myself.
Yeah.
So if it's gonna work, you're gonna have to be more responsive."
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm actually notoriously not responsive. Even all my friends compare that all my friends complain that I ignore them, but I'm going to try. I'm really going to give it a try." And now, 10 years later and 2 kids later, he's been able to really, and he still doesn't really text his friends back, but he's been able to step up. And whenever he has him, when he doesn't call or anything like that, she will hit up his phone. She'd call him 10 times in a row.
He's aware of that, and
he's like, "Hey, babe," and he's like, "Hey, babe, I'm sorry, I couldn't answer." Sounds like, "What do you want from me?" Rah, rah, rah. He doesn't go there because, and when you talk to him, he says, when she asked me, when she put it like that it's something that her brain needs, and then and she doesn't, then it didn't feel like such a huge ask.
I feel like that communication is so important because, especially as a girl, you always want to be the chill girl, right? You always want to come across as, I'm so chilled, but actually, especially when you're anxiously attached, you are so not chilled. But then you give off this vibe, and then they're like, okay, she's fine if I don't reply to her message, when you're sat at home in this anxious spiral. So it's important to lay down that groundwork early doors almost.
Yeah, and it's what your brain needs.
Yeah.
It's just there's no, why would you? And then also, that's the thing. You remember how you said that it's important, to, before you actually open up and get attached, to sort of ascertain.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that people do. They think, "Oh, I don't want to rock the boat." That's a classic anxious thing.
Yeah.
"I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to." No, you want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Rock it as much as you can to see, can they actually stand, or are they falling into the water?
Yeah. It's a good
You
test
want to
early
test
doors.
them.
Yes.
Because then you don't want to do it several months in when you can't really, you don't have the off switch.
Yeah.
What are you going to do
Yeah.
when you find out that they can't really
This is
step up to the
fantastic
plate?
dating advice
This
for
is really good.
anxiously attached. Yeah, 100%. I will be using that now. Actually communicating rather than
It
feeling
works.
shame around that and
Yeah.
needing that.
It really does work.
Yeah.
It even worked for me personally.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you lean heavily avoidant or heavily anxious,
I love that, by the way, this conversation with both that we're having, it really shows you how the avoidant and the anxious come from completely two different worlds.
I know.
It's because it felt like here, my point of view is what you are worried about.
Yeah.
It's completely not what you're concerned, and what I love that you, it's you placed it one next to there. It was a brilliant idea to do it this way, because you can see the stuff that you struggle with, the stuff that you try to deal with. It's very separate and very different. And I really try to address it. There's a different chapter in the book, and the same tools are used differently.
Right.
As an avoidant, you use CARP too, but you use it very differently.
Right. But this is the thing. A lot of what you've just said, I've been asked for in relationships before. Just text me more. That is a bid for connection. That was language that was used literally last week by my girlfriend. And at the time, it felt like a big deal. It felt like I was being attacked. And then all I said to her was, "Yeah, this is easy. It's easy for me to do this. Why wouldn't I do it?" I was like, "This is a quick fix. That subject is over. I'm just going to text you more. When you text me during the day and I say I'm busy, it takes me 30 seconds to text you back. That's
less
all
than
you
30
need."
seconds.
Yeah. That's the thing. Well, you should see our texts me. They're like novels,
I see.
pages. But sometimes I feel like the sense or the threat is almost more overwhelming than the thing you're being asked to do. I'm like, just do it.
So I think also because especially when like people ask that and for avoidance, they feel defensive right away.
Absolutely.
And then they feel oftentimes the same thing like often happens, like they feel, oh, I'm falling short and maybe I should just like give up before I even go there because it's not, they have this, that other script. I might as well give up before I know where this is going.
Yeah.
It always ends up the same.
Yeah.
But that's why I really walk, like there's a certain logic. And if you understand, so for avoidance, what happens, they don't understand, like for them, by not being CARP, because avoidants need the time for themselves. They need a little bit of distance. I like to always, it's more like a stray cat. Like they need to put out the milk and they come on their own dime. Like if you try to force it, it just makes them want to run away.
Yeah.
So they need their distance. They need the time for themselves. And what I teach avoidance in my private practice is like you can hack the attachment system to get that time for yourself by actually being consistent, available, and responsive in small ways. So when you get a call, you can hit that button, I'll call you later. That does wonders. That's so cool that they have that feature because our attachment system loves that. It's like like there's a rope between us and like we can tag and feel that the other person is there, and that makes us feel safe. So it's so easy to do. And then what happens when when you're CARP with them, they don't think about you because it's much easier to see in kids because like if you bring a child, like a toddler, to a room full of toys and the mom is there and they're like, oh my God, look at all these toys. They'll start playing. And like every once in a while, they look at their mom to see if she's there. But they don't care about the mom. They care about playing and exploring. But you tell the mother to leave. They drop everything. They sort of run to the door, bang, and like start crying. Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Where's mommy? And if you give them a toy, they'll throw it in your face. They couldn't care less. So the same neurocircuitry, but as adults, we don't play with toys, but we work with parents, we have friends, we have hobbies. And avoidance oftentimes, unbeknownst to them, act like that mother that leaves the room and raise her racket. And I'm like, no, all you need to do is like, if you find a way to stay there in the room in the background, so whenever they check, they see you. So you don't like with a text or something like that, they're not going to care about you. They're going to be like engaged in the world. That's the beauty of like learning like these little ways of becoming more secure.
I'm someone that identifies as having an avoidant attachment style. What's one piece of advice you would give me to become more secure?
I think I would say learn the attachment logic so you can be present for people in your life. So then you get the space that you need. You just learn to hack the system.
Okay, and for someone with an anxious attachment style, what would you say is the best way to go secure?
I would say don't underestimate your biology. It's a gift, but it's almost like, like the movies with the superheroes that if you don't know how to use your powers, then it's, these backfires.
Yes.
Learn. So I really go into such great length in this book of teaching you how to use your powers for the greater good so it doesn't backfire. So really learn how to, again, it's learning the logic of attachment from a different perspective to make it work in your life.
Fantastic.
I will be reading this book.
Nice.
As soon as I get home.
And finally, Amir, where can people find Secure in your work more generally?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can find it online in all the bookstores. And if you want to take the quiz, it's Amir Levine, MD, medical doctor, AmirLevineMD.com. And there's the quiz there. And you can sort of map it all out and you'll see exactly like where you fall and where there are different people in your life. How does that work out?
Fantastic.
Amazing.
All right. Thank you, guys. That's it for this week. It's been a fascinating conversation. You know where to find us if you like this episode. Make sure you like, comment, share it. The pod's going really well at the moment. We always appreciate your support. Thanks again, and we'll see you again next week.